Let me ask you a question. Imagine being with someone, you talk almost every day. The person shows up for you a lot of the time. The person buys you gifts. You're always around that person. The person acts like a boyfriend or a girlfriend towards you for almost 3 years. And you eventually realize, after pouring your heart and soul into that relationship, that you were actually never together. Unfortunately, that scenario is more rampant than we want to admit. It's called situationships, and lots of people have at some point in their life been involved in one situationship or the other. It can be very heartbreaking. Today's story time is about situationships. I'll be sharing a story of someone I know and how they were involved in a very, very brutal situationship, how it ended. And we'll also be talking about the main ways that you can avoid being in that kind of situation. Because listen, if you're not careful, you would find yourself in such situations if you're not careful. But we're going to be talking about all of that on today's video. Now, this is not my story. It's a story of someone I know very well, right? And I'm sharing this story because, like I said at the start of the video, this is something that is more rampant than we want to admit. If at any point in a relationship you've been involved in, you are asking yourself, what are we even doing? I mean, what are we? That popular question, what are we? Why am I confused? Why does it feel like I'm giving so much into this relationship, but I get little clarity, or even sometimes I get very little, or I feel like I get very little in return? Now, before I get into today's story time, please like this video and subscribe to our channel. So listen to what happened. There's this girl who met a guy while she was in school, university campus, and the guy started the whole thing, right? And he was intentional at first. He was very intentional. He reached out to her. He was always calling her. He was always checking up on her. He was being kind. He gave gifts. I mean, he did what a guy that is trying to court a lady would normally do, right? And so for an unassuming lady, you would want to think that, hey, this guy likes me, right? And I think that we might have something going, especially when you're now attracted to that person. In your head, it's going to be like, we might have something going, right? And everything is going to be all rosy at the start. So naturally, she, as a normal lady, responded. She responded as she was supposed to respond. She responded naturally. Feelings started to grow. She started to have feelings for him. And little by little, she became emotionally invested in this guy. And to her, it felt like, yeah, we're building something. It looks like there's something good going on. And can you blame her? Because everything, at least at that point, seemed very rosy, right? Now, but at some point, something started to change. Now, when he realized that she started to have feelings, he became a lot more comfortable. The whole dynamic changed, right? He started to get more careless, right? He started to intentionally forget certain things. He started to reduce how much he showed up when he saw that this, person had become emotionally invested. And that is just, would I say, a classic playboy move, but that's talk for another day. He started finding different ways to benefit from her emotions, right? Without actually committing fully into the relationship. He was there, he was here, he gave a little and then withdrew, gave a little, withdrew. Again, like I said, classic playboy move. This guy happened to be someone who was quite popular on the university campus. When we say someone who is quite popular, that is, especially ladies were around him. And fine boy now, right? There'll be ladies that flock around him. He's a fine guy who is talented, who has a little bit going on about him, right? So he always had that attention about him. Now, this lady was someone who was not that open. She's sort of a private person. So it looked like the dynamic was a little bit off. But, because again, she was emotionally invested. And she thought, at least at the time, that the guy was also emotionally invested in her. She thought that it was all good. It was all going to work out. They're going to find a way to work it out. The major problem was that he never fully gave himself to the relationship. They never clearly defined the relationship. So every time she wants to, bring up the topic of, okay, where is this going? What are we doing? Are we actually dating? What is this? What are we doing? What is going on? He would always try to dodge the topic or try to just find a way to shift topic. Or even if at all he's going to answer, he's just going to give very vague answers. Now, this went on for almost 3 years. And this guy was very strategic. There were times where, he would come to the hostel. Like I said, it was a campus environment. He would come to the hostel and he would sometimes make it so obvious that, that they were in a relationship. And other times, He's not making it obvious. He was just here and there, a lot of the times, told me of a particular instance where he publicly called her babe, right? And for you as a lady, you're going to think, yeah, that's it. I mean, that means that even if he didn't necessarily officially ask me out, if he calls me babe publicly, that means that. She also told me of an instance where I think it was in a church setting. They were in a fellowship setting or something where the guy went on to, I think it was her birthday, and he publicly celebrated her birthday, right? But did not call her name, did not mention her name. Now, when just imagine that scenario where the guy just comes and then he says, yeah, I want to wish a special person in the crowd there. Today is her birthday. She's very special to me. I love her so much. She's having a birthday today, and I just want to say happy birthday to you. And he did not mention her name. And the girl, of course, is going to be overwhelmed and say, oh, wow, he singled me out. Did he single you out though? He did not. So like I said at the start, all these things are just classic playboy moves. Like, it's a classic move of someone who doesn't really want to commit, right? But just wants to be in and around you, right? But is not ready to be committed to anything serious. So like I said, this went on for almost 3 years, and eventually, the whole thing unraveled, and then she realized that he actually had a girlfriend. While all this was going on, he had a girlfriend. And the worst part of it was that the girlfriend was a friend of hers. That was the moment where everything collapsed, and she was heartbroken. She was really heartbroken, and not necessarily because she was betrayed, but more or less because she realized that she spent 3 years, almost 3 years, believing in something that was never really defined. It took her a while to heal. Now, the scary part is that this is not even rare. Like I said, it's more rampant than we, want to believe. And this is a story of, a girl being led on by a guy, but there are also cases of guys being led on by a girl. Like, it's more rampant than we think. There are situationships everywhere. There are relationships everywhere that people fail to define. You don't know if you're friends. You don't know if you're partners. You don't know you don't know what is going on, right? And it must be defined. Now, let me ask you something about this. At what point in this story should this have been defined? At what point should she have compulsorily sat him down and said, hey, let's have a talk about this. What are we doing? Are we in a relationship? Do you want to be in a relationship with me? Do you want to get married to me? Like, what exactly are we doing? What are the plans we have? What are we doing? What's the meaning of all this? At what point should that conversation have been had? Situationships happen because somehow people are afraid to ask difficult questions. People want to enjoy the benefits of being in a certain relationship with someone without actually committing to that person, without giving clarity, and just hoping that with time, some sort of vague clarity would come. It doesn't work like that, and unfortunately, situationships would waste your time. It would drain your energy. It would, in this case, get you heartbroken. It would destroy your self-worth. It would create confusion instead of peace that is actually needed for a relationship to thrive. And listen, I strongly believe anything that confuses you emotionally is not love. The Bible says God is love, and God is not an author of confusion. So if it is confusing you, it's not love. It's not love. It's absolutely not. Now, here are a few things to remember. First is that define your relationships early. See, the moment you notice it has gone 1 week, 2 weeks, and you're talking to a person consistently, you're having consistent discussions with the person almost every day, if not every day, then you should ask that question, that big question that people are always afraid of. What are we? Please ask the question. I think 2 weeks of talking every day is way too much for you not to ask that question. That's where the confusion begins, right? Even if the question offends them, please ask the question. Ask that question, what are we? I mean, you can't be talking to somebody's child every day for 3 weeks, for 1 month, for 2 months, for 3 months, and you guys don't even know what you're doing. It's just unfair. It shouldn't happen. It shouldn't work. Another thing to take note of is that beyond the words that people say to you, read their actions. Like, sometimes say it in some movies where they say love with your head, not your heart. Well, you should love with your heart and your head. That's true. But sometimes it's important to love with your head. While you're in love with the person, while you have, so much strong feelings for the person, it's important to think about the meaning of certain actions, right? When you can truly read read actions, it would help you to know if this person, is really interested in you or the person just wants to waste your time. It's important to know that access must not come without responsibility. See, I'm going to say this again. Access must not come without responsibility. If anybody is going to have that much access to you, talking to you every day, right, then there must be some sort of responsibility. You must be able to tell the person and say, hey, if you want to talk to me every day, you want to have that much access to me, then it has to come with responsibility. Then you need to take responsibility for my emotions and for your emotions as well, if your emotions are involved, right? Access must never, ever be without responsibility. And like I said earlier, this applies to both men and women. It's not related to just one gender. It applies to both men and women. And I think if you intentionally follow these few things I mentioned earlier, you would successfully avoid the snare of situationships. That's what I strongly believe. I strongly believe that it's not wrong to walk away from a relationship where you feel it's not being defined properly. You realize that you are getting into a situationship. Please walk away. Your emotions might already be deeply involved. You might really have feelings for the person. It might hurt for a bit, but it's better it hurts for a bit now than you drag it long enough and then you get so emotionally invested in this person and then it turns out to be a farce. That's going to hurt way, way more. Now, if this story resonated with you, please share it to somebody that needs clarity. You know that one person in your life, and it may be you or it may be somebody in your life that is refusing to hear word, right? The person is getting into or has even gotten into a situationship. Please share this video to that person and let the person break free from the snare of situationship. And if you enjoyed the video, please like the video, subscribe to our channel, and click on the notifications button so that you're notified when there's new content on the channel. This has been Storytime with Goodness Eze. My name is Goodness Eze. See you on the next video. Adios.